So welcome to everybody for week 3 of End of Life Intentions for Dummies, Pragmatists, and Seekers. I'm Rhyena Halpern, and I'm an end-of-life doula in the Bay Area, in Berkeley specifically. And this is Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation's class, and we're very happy to be here. Happy to have everybody here as well. I wanted to apologize in advance we have had a few admin problems, errors, mistakes, even though we have tried very, very hard not to. And so I apologize if you had any problems registering. We are still working things out, but we keep trying. So I appreciate your forbearance and kindness. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And 1 second, actually, 1 second. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And hopefully you are seeing this full slide of wonderful picture of Dr. Kübler-Ross and her dog, I hope. So welcome again to folks. Mariella is going to tell me if it's not right, if I have the screens on the wrong monitors, but here we go. I know there's a couple new people signed up this week, and I'd like to ask you to stay to the end, and I could get you oriented just in consideration of folks who've been here every week. I just want to help with that orientation for new folks at the end, but I think you'll be fine going along with stuff here. Okay, so here I wanted to start with one of Elisabeth's quotes. Death is simply a shedding of the physical body, like the butterfly shedding its cocoon. So I just want to ask you to just take a moment and contemplate that. How does it land in you? Does it feel true to you? Does it feel like a platitude? Is it comforting? And just take a moment to contemplate that and put one word in the chat. Yes, you like it, or no, you don't, or feels true or not, but just something in the chat. Death is simply a shedding of this physical body, like the butterfly shedding its cocoon. She said a lot of amazing things, and so every class, you notice, we start with one of her quotes. So today's class is life review and legacy. And like I said, new people, please do stay afterwards, and I'll give you some orientation on myself, the foundation, the logistics of the class. And I want to thank folks for giving as much as they can. We're just a really tiny, mostly volunteer staff, and we really appreciate your support. And we also really care about making it accessible to folks, which is why we have the different levels of giving. So thank you in advance for that. Today, I hope you're ready and excited for a lot of content, because there's a lot today. We do have 2 breakouts, lecture, and a couple writing prompts, and we'll also be doing some stuff on the internet that I will be showing. So it's a kind of meaty, in a vegetarian sort of way, class. So the class objectives, as always, are to explore a wide palette of death and dying topics, to investigate where you're at, your innerscape, to learn and pivot to some new ways of thinking, to enjoy the supportive, friendly, and even fun environment, and get an intentional. That is the point of the class, is to really start on this journey together, individually and together, to get intentional about what you need to do to prepare for the end of life. So just before we go forward, I just wanted to say where we have come from. In our first class, we talked a lot about intentionality and defined what it is. We defined journey and journal as coming from the same root word. We talked a lot about going from a death denying to a death accepting mindset. My vision that everybody fills out an advanced care directive as just a rite of passage of adulthood. We want to see the normalization of conversations about end of life. We did 9 contemplations, that meditation, and a breakout group about it. And we watched films and reflected on their impact. In the second week, we talked a lot about the treasures of later years of our lives. We faced our inner ageist. We met our inner elder and received guidance from them. And we did the Frank Ostaseski photo exercise, what attracts us and what pushes us away about death. And he gave us that wonderful phrase that I often think of: don't get lost in the mind, stay with your direct experience. And then we reviewed the 4 templates for life review. And that brings us up to today. We're continuing on our journey, on our way together, and hopefully with very tender sharing in our breakout rooms, with meaningful writing and time for reflection. So I wanted to read this and hope you can just kind of let it into your body. As Carl Sagan taught us, our bodies are made of stardust. Atoms in them are billions of years old. We have trillions of bacteria in our body, more bacteria than human cells. We are literally a part of the universe, and so much more than I. So this quote for me builds on the Elisabeth's quote that we started with. And I feel like there really is space, along with pain and suffering, deterioration of the mind and the body, unfinished business. There really is room for the sacred as we think of end of life. What if we could hold that sacredness close to our heart and also embrace the oneness of life? That which Thich Nhat Hanh describes death as merely we continue. Is this possible, that we continue, that death is the transition of spirit from this body to another place? Something to consider. So how can the experience of aging and eldering support the conditions needed for spiritual growth? In spiritual evolution, you don't destroy the ego, rather, you stop identifying with it. Aging is freeing. We have fewer attachments. Being love is the best preparation for death. There's nowhere to go, nothing to fear, just loving awareness, unchanging, as everything around me changes moment to moment. Being here right now, becoming immortality in the moment now and at the moment of death. And that is Ram Dass. So It's a beautiful quote, and he wrote a lot about the ego and the time of death and just the whole process of letting go. He says the problem was not the ego itself, but how identified we are with it. So in my mind, no matter how we defined ourselves, if we're moving towards this process of letting go and embracing more love and less ego, isn't that really the spiritual dimension? So what I'd like to do right now is pause for a moment and hear from everybody, kind of like what we did last week. We'll give you 30 seconds each before the timer goes off. And what I'd like to hear is just your name, where you're zooming in from. Do you identify as a dummy, somebody new on this whole end of life thinking, planning world? A pragmatist, somebody who's solid on it, but wants the structure to actually get some stuff done? Or a seeker that you consider end of life part of your spiritual path? So 30 seconds, your name, where you're zooming in from, whether you identify yourself as a dummy, a pragmatist, a seeker. And if you don't like those words, you can use new, on the path, or spiritual path. So with that, I'm going to stop my screen share.
And Rhyena, I'm gonna let folks know what the bell sounds like. Just gonna connect my sound here. Let's see if you all can hear. Maybe I shared my whole screen.
Yeah.
Safu. We're having the technology safus today. Share sound. Okay. Computer audio. While everyone is coming up with their answers. Sorry about the wait here. Okay, here we go.
Very good. So I'm going to ask Jan Brewer to start us off and then just throw it to the next person. And again, when you hear the chimes, just move on. Go ahead, Jan.
Hi, I'm zooming in. My name is Jan Brewer. I'm zooming in from Berkeley. And I want to say I'm a seeker. However, the pragmatic part of me knows that I'm still working on pragmatist. So I'm both or somewhere in the middle. And I'll throw it off to good old Lori Fox again.
We make this a habit. Hi, I'm Lori from Burlingame, California, and total seeker. Donna Marie.
Hi, I am Donna Marie, and I am calling in from the DC area. I'm in Alexandria, Virginia, and I consider myself a seeker and a pragmatist.
Go ahead.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Well, Krista.
My name is Krista Stokey, and I am coming in from Vandalia, Illinois. It's near St. Louis, Missouri, and I would say I'm a seeker as well. Helen?
Unmute, please.
Did I use up my 30 seconds in that? I'm Helen. I'm from Oakland, California, and I'm a seeker. Oh, I'll call on somebody. Elaine?
Hi, I'm Elaine from Santa Cruz, California, and I'm both a pragmatist and a seeker. How about Dorothy?
Gotta unmute, Dorothy. Just hold your space bar down while you're talking, we'll unmute too.
I'm Dorothy Petchy. I'm from Exeter, New Hampshire. And I would consider myself on the path.
Who would you like to throw it to, Dorothy?
I don't know the names.
Okay,
I'm
shall
new
I-
up today. Yeah,
How about Nancy Larby?
thank you.
Nancy, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, hi, I'm Nancy Larby. I'm visiting in Kansas City. I'm house sitting. I live in London. And I am here to see where I am at, to see how ready I am. And I'm going to throw it to Lori's iPad.
Hi, I'm Laurie. I'm from Delaware. And I would say I'm definitely on the spiritual path.
You want to throw it to Mariella, Lori?
Sure.
Thank you. Mariela Marie, originally from California. I live in Argentina and Patagonia, and I'm a seeker. Anyone else, Rhyena, or would you like to share?
I think Abby hasn't gone yet, right?
Abby.
I haven't.
Abby, please.
Abby, and I'm in Virginia Beach, Virginia. And I think I'm definitely a seeker. And I'm thinking that, is it Rosie? Have you gone?
I have not.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I'm Rosie from Santa Fe, New Mexico. I classify myself as a seeker, having gone through this path with my wife last year. I'm not sure who else is going. Pam?
Hi, I'm Pam. I'm from a northwest suburb of Chicago, and I'm a seeker. And I'm going to call on Krista. Not sure if she's been called on yet or not.
How about Janine?
Janine.
Hi, I'm here. I'm from Northampton, Massachusetts, and I'm probably a seeker. What else was I supposed to answer?
That was it.
That was it. Okay, thank you.
I'll just throw it for you to Elaine.
I already had a turn, thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sharon?
Live in DC, and I would say I'm on the path.
Very good. Well, thank you to everybody. We have a lot of distinguished folks here. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to sharing my screen. And yeah. Hopefully this is the correct screen. So legacy and life review is
Rhyena, we don't see your screen share, or at least I'm not.
I see it.
You see it? Okay, great. Then it's just me. Ah, we see it. Thank you.
Okay, good. So we're doing a deep dive into life review and legacy today. And one thing to note is that we tend to forget that the dying still have stories to tell. People facing the end of their life want to tell us who they are, what they did for a living, about their families, their hopes, their dreams, their loves, their regrets. And getting to listen and share deeply really does hold the space. So today, instead of waiting till we're at the very end of our lives, we're starting to embrace life review and legacy now. Consider this as you wrote your life review this past week. Did you feel like you just started it, or did you feel like you finished it? Is it something you feel comfortable having undone? Could you continue to write it as a speck of stardust, an inner elder, a tiny bacteria? Okay, this did not advance on my screen. 1 second. So
We can see our deepest values on your screen now.
yes. So as we do this life review, we are focusing on what we cherish, what we hold deepest in terms of our values, our love, what really touches our heart. And there's a kind of urgency to this in the sense of that we don't want to wait. We want to be intentional now. So first, we'll just talk a little bit about legacy projects. There's all sorts of different types of projects for the dying person and their loved ones, and later on for the bereaved or the people who go on after the death of their loved ones. These kinds of projects can really help alleviate anxiety in caregivers and can be an expression of love or a parting gift. It's of course not mandatory. Not everybody wants to do this. There's no absolute need to do it. But let's just see if it's a intention for you, if it's something that you want to do. We'll also be talking a little bit about legacy projects next week too. So in terms of the first slide looked at our journals. And, you know, there's just so much, so many people have written. We can edit and illustrate journals. We can write poems and letters. We can create an ethical will that expresses our values for the next generation. I had a client who had written over 1,000 poems, and they were all about the natural environment and his spiritual sense of self. And he wanted to leave the top 100 for his kids. So we spent about a year just editing these poems down to his top 100. So these are the kinds of things one can do. Can also create cookbooks, scrapbooks, photo albums. Sometimes when people are dying at home, there's a lot of time actually where people are just sitting around, family and friends, and the kind of waiting. And it's a wonderful thing to reminisce and do some creative projects like this. There's also memories that can be either put onto or are already on audio or video files. There's video letters. There's apps like StoryCorps that lets you record stories. So these kinds of the use of audio and video is really getting more and more popular. And I also had a client who had 6 siblings, and he made a video letter. We just did it on his iPhone for every single sibling. Just something very funny and sweet, you know, his pet names for them and what he loved most about them. He just recorded in these minute-long video letters, and they were just so, his siblings were just so happy to receive them. Also, mementos can be created from legacy pieces. Again, it's okay to absolutely do nothing. One thing I strongly do recommend is the release and the relief for you and your loved ones, downsizing. Just keeping with you what gives you joy, what you need, and tossing, donating, selling what you want to let go of. And I think I've seen a lot of people really feel such a relief when they identified those few pieces, whether they're heirlooms or art or just some special memento or tchotchke that they have, that they want a special person to have. So some kind of simple list of who they want to have what of their special things. I know for me, it's I have a hand-painted dining room table, and I always tell my kids that if they try to get rid of that table after I die, I will come back and haunt them. So those are some things about legacy. I want to talk about life review. And as we discussed last week and the handout that I sent by email, we you had 4 options, and just picking one that resonated with you. And what I wanted to do now is go into a breakout for about 10 minutes, probably groups of 3, and talk about this experience of life review. Again, we're just talking about starting your life review. It doesn't have to be finished. You might change it over time, but this is just setting an intention to start on your life review. And so what stood out to you? What was the experience like for you? How do you decide which template, and what did you like about it? Did you end up changing templates? So that's what I'd like to spend the next 10 minutes or so doing. And I just want to say, with breakout groups, this can be free-flowing conversations. We just want to make sure everyone has equal time to share. And I also just want to remind folks that this is a space of deep listening and deep acceptance for our differences as well as our similarities. It's not a place for opinions. It's just an open-hearted, accepting place. And if you just don't feel like you're in the right group, you want to meet new people, whatever, you can just easily leave the group, and I'll notice that, and we'll go into a new group. I'll put you in because you'll come back to the main room where I will be, and I can put you into another group. So with that, I'm going to open up the breakout rooms. And you'll have 10 minutes. If you fall out of the room, I'll just put you in another room. If you don't feel like being in a room, just stay here with me. Okay. So you go ahead and hit the join button. You'll see it in 1 second. And I will broadcast about every 3 minutes or so. So Mariella, there's no questions.
Great. Okay. I was just sticking around to see if you needed anything else.
Thank you. You're so sweet. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'm gonna hop into my breakout room.
Okay. And then Pam and Elaine, do you want to stay here in the main room?
Yeah, I gotta step away for a few minutes. I'm still at work. So I'll come back. Thanks.
Welcome back. We'll wait just another minute for everybody to get back. Did that feel like enough time to folks? Yeah. Okay.
Rhyena, there could never be enough time.
Right.
It's the way I feel.
I know, right? That's kind of the beauty of end of life planning, right? Is you can do it, you can spend a short amount or long amount. We're just trying to find that chunk that feels right here. Okay, so I actually remembered to start the recording again. And now I'm going to share my screen. We're actually going to move into a writing prompt for just a few minutes so you can memorialize some of the thoughts and feelings. So if you didn't, I forgot to say, have your journal or your computer. So if you don't have that, please pull it up. Hopefully. So what I wanted to say after that breakout is, this really is end of life planning. You really are doing it right now. And I want to ask you a couple questions here to think about. What does sacred mean to you? I'm not talking about a religious sense. I'm just talking about a heart, spirit sense. Is it a place, a thing, or a feeling? How do you create it for yourself? Is leaving a legacy important to you? Is life review important to you? What projects or activities call to you? And I just want you to think about creating a map or a plan or write your intentions. You could talk about life review, legacy, your values, what makes your heart happy and full, what touches you the most, letting go of ego, opening up to oneness in the universe, greeting your inner elder. What is up for you? What's your takeaway from the exercise you did this past week, the breakout session you had, just contemplation today thus far during class? And I will give you about 4 minutes to write. I don't want you to lose any ideas or strong intuitions you have. So that's the purpose of this time. 2 minutes remaining. Please mute yourself if you haven't done so. One minute. Welcome back. Just know that you can come back to this, come back into the space. You'll get the recording and you'll even have the 4 minutes recorded onto our video class. So I'm gonna move on, and I want to preface this by saying this is a lot of information. I have every single thing in a Word document for you that you will receive. So I just want you to sit comfortably and just let the information come in. Some of it might be old for you, some of it might be new. But I just want to just alleviate any worry about following the information, because you will have it all in the handout. So first, we're talking about end of life documents. And you can get very wound up about all the documents one needs. But we're going to talk about the essential decisions that one needs to make. And once you have those decisions made, everything else, the forms, the filling it out, is pretty rote. So what I'd like you to do is just put in the chat if you have an advanced care directive. Put in the chat if you have a post. Just let us know. Now, also, I want to say an advanced care directive that's less than 5 years old, because they do need to be updated. And if you have started one but have not finished it, please let us know that. So the first thing I want to do is talk about, well, how do you define your end of life wishes? How do you even chunk that down? And what we're going to do is we're going to go to this lovely website. And this, again, is going to be in your handout, so you don't have to worry about writing it down. In fact, please don't write it down. Let's just try to be present here. This is a website. It's called Go Wish. And you can see I have these come in cards, and I use these always with clients. I love these. And you can also use it online. So what you're going to see is that this this deck of cards has something like 40 cards with the most common out of 800 people who were surveyed at the end of life, the most common wishes. And what you're going to do is do this sometime this week and decide what your most important wishes are. And you can see it's divided into very important, somewhat important, and not important. So just watch me play this game online for a moment.
To know how my body will change.
So that's, if that is really important to you, you put it in very important. For me, I'm not that interested in that. So I put it in not important.
To remember personal accomplishments.
I also am not totally wild about that one. Let's hope we get to one that I
To
really
feel that my life is complete.
Yeah, that's pretty important to me.
To keep my sense of humor.
That's somewhat important.
To be treated the way I want.
I hope you can hear the audio. Yes, Lori saying yes.
Yes, we can. Yes.
To be treated the way I want. I'm gonna put that here.
To have human touch.
I'm putting that in somewhat because you never know. Sometimes it hurts. You just don't know. So it's a depends.
To have my funeral arrangements made.
That is very important to me.
To be able to help others.
I'm thinking maybe I could give that up at the very end.
To have my family prepared for my death.
So you can see.
To have my family with me.
You can see how this goes. So the deck of cards gives you all these options, and you can look at them, and then you can move them too. Like if I
To have my family with me.
if I want to move it here, I can. So I find this to be very helpful. It's really fun to have a physical deck of cards, but you can do this online too. You can save it, you can print it, you can redo it as many times as you want. So it's something I really do like. And I hope, and you'll have that in your handout, and I hope you will enjoy it. Something I recommend. Also, just here, I wanted to make a plug for Unfinished Business. These are the 4 sayings that people say at the time of death are the most important to say. I love you, please forgive me, thank you, and I forgive you. And I just want to say that really at this time, at the very end of our lives, this is the time where it would just be really great, don't you think, to go unfettered, to go with a real sense of completion, of resolution, of forgiveness, of amends. And I'm just making a plug for that. I know it took me 25 years to talk to my ex-husband, and part of what motivated me was to not have to worry about that being incomplete on my deathbed. And it really has been great. Lori, is it urgent? Okay, so if you don't mind just waiting just a little bit, okay. So the first thing is there's 2 essential things, your wishes at the end of life, and this is a good way to figure out where they are and what they are, I'm sorry. But I'm also making a plug to make sure these are in there. They're somewhat in there. But so you can just figure out what are your wishes, and that's a great place to start. The other thing that's really very important is your healthcare proxy, also called durable power of attorney, is that the person you want to speak for you if you cannot speak for yourself. This can be a partner, a child, a close friend, an end-of-life doula. It can be anybody that you decide that you feel like you can trust with your wishes, who will honor and respect them. That's the most important things. And I can say that there is a trend where people are not picking their partners and children because they're not totally comfortable that their wishes will be followed. And this is why there's more end-of-life doulas and close friends and other people getting involved as healthcare proxies. So it's a very important decision. It really means that this person knows and respects your wishes. And again, you don't have to decide this today. It's just working on these two essential areas, your wishes and your person. That is just really important. So I want to take 1 minute before we go on to more information for you to just jot down any notes that have come up in your head that you want to remember about the most essential things to you and at your most essential wishes and your person or possible people. Just 1 minute. Just jot those down if you don't have that already decided. You might have 5 people that are possible contenders. You might have 3 wishes that you know are absolutely true. I don't want to die in a hospital. I don't want to be hooked up to machines. I want to apologize to anyone I have hurt. What are the most important things to you? Okay, I'm going to go on with some more concrete information. And, one of the end-of-life documents can consist of many things: life review, legacy projects, ethical wills, your will, your trust, your advanced care directive, your post, your self-written obituary. There could be a lot of different things in it. We're going to focus mostly right now on advanced care directives. And there's a few things that I really want to communicate about them that are very important. So, because they really are intentional. So, 90% of people in the United States say it's important to do, and less than a third have done so. That was as of 2020. In 2010, the numbers were much less. 80% thought it was important and 18% had done so. And I've seen just a huge amount of awareness increase, especially with the pandemic, about advanced care directives. And we have really reached a tipping point, and I'll show you why in a second. But our medical approach is to sustain life, leaving to chance that your life, in an event you cannot speak for yourself, may not reflect your wishes. And the whole purpose of the Advanced Care Directive is to make sure your wishes are memorialized in writing and attached or available to healthcare providers. Also, please note that if you're 18 or older you can't share your medical info. So you need an advanced care directive with a healthcare proxy because of HIPAA laws. So these become very important instruments to have. I'm going to also talk about dementia addendums. I wanted to just say one thing, that one funny story is that I moved into a new house a couple years ago, and I thought I was gonna get it together by buying a little safe. And I put my advanced care directive and will and trust into that safe, and then I promptly lost the keys. I still have never found the keys. So I had to redo it all and recreate it. And I have to say it was quite a wonderful process, because I know a lot more than when I had written it 10 years ago. And I felt I'm older and I feel more in touch of what my desires and needs and wishes are. My kids are now adults, so I feel comfortable with them as proxies. So I'm just saying there is a value to not just some mistakes, but time, because advanced care directives do need to be updated. And I have taught quite a few advanced care directive workshops, and really noted that some people had been working on wanting to get their directives done for years, sometimes 5 years, sometimes 10 years, and just had never completed it. And the feeling of relief to have this done, or to have it updated now that things have changed, it's just huge for people. So if you don't have it the way you want it, if you haven't updated it, or you don't have one, this is really a good time to do it. So there's a huge amount of templates. I'm going to go through a few with you, but again, if you know your wishes and your person, then everything else is easy. It's just filling out forms. So I'm going to share my other screen with you, and we're going to just look at these options. And again, I don't want you to worry. You're going to get all these URLs. I just want you to kind of go with me on this. This is like if you were going to be going down the rabbit hole on the internet yourself. We're going to do that a little bit, but what you're going to see are kind of my recommendations. There's just a huge amount of choices out there, and you're going to see kind of what I think are some really good options. The first thing I wanted to say is that, you know, when I first wrote my advanced care directive, and I've been a Kaiser person for like 35 years, they didn't have a way for me to put my advanced care directive in it. I had to like ask my doctor, who said no. Then I had to go to member services. I had to insist to get it attached to my medical record. Now, Kaiser, you have to fill your advanced care directive out. Now, I'm extrapolating from this that, you know, there's many other healthcare providers who also have gotten on the advanced care directive bandwagon. And that's the most important place for you to have your advanced care directive, because you want your medical people to know your wishes. The other really important place to have your advanced care directive is with your people, with your pod, your family, your proxy, your durable power of attorney. So that's why I'm starting with this. I'm not advocating Kaiser, but I'm advocating your healthcare provider, making sure they have your advanced care directive. Many of them have their own forms, so you just fill out their form. But if they don't, you make sure they have yours. So let's just go through some of these. Compassion and choices. wonderful organization. Again, you're going to see all of this in the handout. They have incredible information about end-of-life planning, advanced care directives, and they really walk you through it. You can see there's pulsed, DNR, intubation, limitations. There's just a lot of information, and then they have actual tools for filling out an advanced care directive. Another organization I really like is the Conversation Project, and they have this nice workbook for figuring out your advanced care directive. And it really guides you through, okay, what are your goals? What kind of care do you want? What are your preferences? And it's asking you these questions, talking you through it. So the Conversation Project, I like these two, Compassionate Choices and Conversation Project. 5 Wishes, probably a lot of you have heard of. This is a really good, solid tool that's been around for a while and is widely used. And they're again talking about the same thing that every advanced care directive is talking about. Who do I want to make decisions for me if I can't? The kind of medical treatment I want or don't want, how comfortable do I want to be, how do I want to be treated, what I want my loved ones to know. And this, you have to buy their template. I think it's $5 for a form, but that's how they've kind of stayed afloat. And this is a good instrument. Then I want to talk about this. And this is an important website because, as you can see, every state in the United States has an advanced care directive. So I don't know if we have anyone from Alabama here. I'm just going to go in it, but you can see Alabama has their form. Let me go back and pick another state. Let's pick Connecticut. Connecticut has their form. So you can use a form that is from your state. Now there's one disadvantage to doing this, and that is if you happen to be sick and at end of life while traveling or in another state, there sometimes has been some confusion about what precedent, what laws get followed. So if Connecticut, for instance, allows you to do X, Y, and Z, but Alabama doesn't, for instance, then there can be a little bit of a problem. But it's a really powerful tool to use your state form for advanced care directive. And here I just pulled up so you could see California's form. And this is what it looks like. It's not beautiful. It's it's a form. So the National Institute on Aging has a whole lot of information on advanced care planning and directives. Then you can see there now is this shift to going online with advanced care directives. And the reason why is because you can give access to your family very easily to your wishes. So let's just say you're sick and you're in Iowa, but you live in Washington and your kid lives in Florida. They just go online, figure out your proxy, your child is your proxy, your healthcare proxy. They live in Florida. So they can actually, and you can't speak for yourself, they can actually know your wishes and make sure that is happening They are being followed from a distance in consult with the doctors and facility. And there's quite a few other ones of these. Lantern is another one. They have the same thing. They're different software. And you can see what ones you want. Free Will has one, and they also have Will and Trust, so you could have everything all together. And Wiser Care is another one. So this is very common. The problem with doing it online is it's not as accessible to your medical providers. So you have to either have your medical providers have their own form that says everything you want that is in parallel with what you have in your online, your app form, or you have to print it out and get them to scan it into your file, something like that. But you know, these things are growing and evolving and changing, and I'm sure they'll just keep getting better. So that is what I want to say about advanced care directives. But what I really want to do now is talk about people's biggest concerns. And advanced care directives, as you know, they are created for physical demise, not cognitive. And with this epidemic of cognitive disease, most people are most worried about dementia, including but not limited to Alzheimer's. And so what you're seeing as a trend now is advanced care directives are starting to include dementia. I'm not saying your medical facility does. I'm saying they're starting to. It's a trend. I think they all will be changed to be to address cognitive as well as physical decline within the next couple of years. I have this form attached to my advanced care directive at Kaiser. And I like this. It's dementiadirective.org. Again, it's in your handout, so you don't have to worry. But it actually gives you it goes through different levels of cognitive decline and lets you determine what you want in terms of care, etc. You know, how much do you want to live as long as you can? How much treatment do you want? Do you want only comfort, only care? And it goes through different levels from mild to moderate to severe dementia. I have to say, this form, there's a lot of other forms. This one, to me, it's only 3 pages. Most of them are like almost a workbook and very complex and lots of choices. They're more like 10 pages. So I like this one. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say about that. I'm going to show you a couple others. Compassion and choices, which again, we saw over here for advanced care planning. We have over, whoops, sorry, where did they go? Here. They also have very good tool for dementia. And you can, it's free, you can print it out, download it and print it out. And they go through something kind of similar, a little more involved, comprehensive. Also, the Alzheimer's Association also has a pretty good one. So, and you can see it's 16 pages, but it has a lot of info in it too. So that's another reason why I like the dementia directive, because I don't want all the info. I just want the forms so I can attach it to my advanced care directive. So dementia directives, I think they're really important to have. I think, you have to make sure your advanced care directive has or doesn't have it in there before you determine if you need if you need the dementia directive. We're gonna have a few minutes for questions in just a minute. I'm getting there. I'm thinking that most people in this room know about POLSTs. These are portable medical orders. In California, we call a POLST is a physician ordered life-saving treatment form, and ideas you have them available in the case of a acute medical crisis like a heart attack or a crash, that an ambulance or hospital can easily access your preferences. So this is pretty limited to an acute injury or accident or illness. And it's really important to have. It was formed because the Advanced Care Directive really doesn't address it, because this is an emergency situation. And so it really came out of the Advanced Care Directive that we have this POLST form as well. And again, I have this one will show different ones for professionals, different templates, etc. And different guide you through. I'm assuming most people have POLST, even if you don't have advanced care directives. So what I want to do, just one second, is I want to come back and see, are there any is anybody like really confused, or you might be bored because you might know all this, but are there any like kind of urgent, important questions that people have or feel? Okay, okay, Janine, yeah. You have to unmute yourself if you want me to hear.
Is the MOLST and the POLST, are they similar?
Yes, they're in different states, they're called a different thing. So
Okay.
MOLST is a different state than California, and M is medical, whereas P is physician. And with these instruments, your doctor does sign off on it. So that's why they're enforceable in the case of an emergency. And thank you for asking that, because I meant to say that. So I appreciate it. Abby.
Can you tell me the difference between a medical advance and a living will? Does every state have living wills? I'm not sure I understand. I have both, but I don't think I understand.
Yes, and that is also a good question. So a living will is the section of your will that deals with advanced care planning. Outside of that instrument of your will, it's called an advanced care directive. Now, in California, they actually changed it so that lawyers are supposed to not call it living will. They're supposed to call it advanced care directive, but they are still lagging behind. And so you see living will, and it can be redundant to advanced care directive. However, then this is very important. If you did your will, I don't know, 5 years ago, right? And it's dated, and you do a new advanced care directive now as a result of this class, that is the legally enforceable. So it's by date. It is by date. I mean, you have to make sure the right parties have it. Your medical, right? Your medical providers, your healthcare proxy, but yes. Does that answer it? Thank you for those questions. Any other ones before I go on? I want to give you a little time to talk about these in a shorter breakout too. Does everybody just have a advanced care directive and this is kind of like a no-brainer, or is this helpful information? I can't tell.
I would think the information is helpful, even if we're just letting it trickle in, because you can't say this enough times.
Okay. Has anybody in this room had the experience of starting but not finishing their advanced care directive and finding it difficult to do so? No. We have no procrastinators in this room. Okay. I'm going to share my screen. We'll go
I have
through.
a quick question, Rhyena. This might
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
and I asked this because I used to help out in a lawyer's office, and this was actually my introduction to, the whole world behind everything that you've just talked about now, and I was just plugging in the hours. I was like,
Right.
wow, lawyers get paid a lot to just make sure, this is happening. So my question is a lawyer needed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
A lawyer is not needed for an advanced care directive at all. In fact, I saved some money when I had to have my stuff redone. Just had the lawyer just ignore the living will. I got that taken care of separately and just don't even bother doing it. And yeah, no. And you know what's, I think that's really great because it makes advanced care directives accessible to all people. You don't have to have money to have an advanced care directive. You just download a form. If you don't have a computer, you go to the library and you need either 2 witnesses to sign it, or you can get it notarized for $15. And that's it. It is a legally enforceable instrument. And you might never need an advanced care directive because you might always be able to speak for yourself, but we never know. And so this is one of those ease of mind things. Plus it helps you get clear about your wishes, which I think is really so valuable. I mean, really, really critical. Okay, so can I go on? We're through most of the info. I just have a little bit more. It's kind of optional info in case you're interested. So I'm going to, excuse me, share my screen again. So yes, in the United States, I can say we really are reaching a tipping point. I can say you could not find advanced care directives online like you can nowadays. And I really think the pandemic had a lot to do with that. It's really catapulted us into a much more acceptance and awareness. I also think it's a wonderful sign of culturally that in the culture there's more death acceptance. It's a sign of personal and societal readiness to plan for death. So I just want to leave you with, please do check with your healthcare provider so that you make sure if they have a form, that's the one you really want to make sure you fill out so they have that on record. I want to emphasize the need to chunk it down to make it doable. And I want to reinforce that it is a living document. So you have the right to change it at any point in time. For instance, here is an example of what you might want to change. You might say that you don't want to be hooked up to any machine. And then you might find several years later that you have ALS and you can no longer feed yourself or you can no longer consume solid foods. And all of a sudden, a machine can be very helpful so that you have sustenance. It's not the same thing as a ventilator. Another example would be oxygen. I would use oxygen if I needed oxygen. That is not to me in the same category as a ventilator. So I just want to say there's things as our time progresses that we might move on. So just in conclusion, these are the things that I think are most important to designate your person. And I want to say again that a lot of times if you don't have a person, a neutral person really is helpful. I've been hearing more from my friends in their 70s and 80s about nieces and nephews rather than their kids. Or I've been hearing more about end-of-life doulas who are truly neutral. I think it's also important to be able to state who and what you want and don't want, whether that's people or medical treatment or comfort meds. A real emphasis on your wishes and choices, whether it's physical or cognitive decline, and the kind of environment that you want. And here I'm talking, greater than an advanced care directive. I'm talking about an end of life plan. Next week, we'll talk more about, or actually in 2 weeks, we'll talk more about solo aging, but I just wanted to mention that. So, advanced care directive is one important instrument in an end of life plan, but it doesn't include everything. This was the dementia directive. This was pulsed. And then I wanted to talk about obituaries a little bit. There is a trend where people are writing their own obituaries. It's become kind of a fad, kind of popular. It's something that you are free and welcome to do. Using your life review makes it really easy to do your own obituary. And I have in the handout for you 3 or 4 URLs, including this image, which helps write a short obituary. We're not focused on this for the purposes of this class because we're really focused on intentions, and the obituary is kind of a add-on or end product after the life review. But I just wanted you to know it's in your, it's going to be in your handout in case you are interested and drawn to doing this. And then lastly, I wanted to just talk for a minute about culturally specific traditions. There's just a whole lot of traditions in different cultures about death and dying and what to embrace and how to do it, etc. And I wanted to just share just a little bit because it is my tradition about ethical wills. And one thing, can you see, is everybody seeing this? Yes, you are, right? You're seeing this New York Times, yes? Article, yes. I'm looking for somebody to nod that you're seeing this.
Yes,
okay.
we see it.
Great, thank you. So ethical wills, the first one was started in 1916. And it kind of started as kind of on an activist level for this noted man created this first So you can see it's May 17th, 1960. He wanted to lie with the poor because those were his values. And he left what became known as an ethical will. The ethical wills do have a longer history, but in this country, we note 1916 as the first one. So this is also in your handout. It's pretty interesting. And I know, like some people, the whole idea of an ethical will is very interesting because, wills are focused on the division of your assets. But maybe that's not the most important thing, or maybe you don't have very many assets, but you really want your voice to be heard in terms of your values. And that's a lot what we've been talking about today is values, and both in terms of legacy and life review. And I personally just really like the values. And so you'll find in your handout quite a few options for if you want to create an ethical will. And it's a custom that is, secular as well. You don't have to be Jewish to do it, but you can borrow on the tradition because it's a lovely way to pass on the ethics that are most important to you for future generations. And then I'm just going to show you here the obituary links that are in your handout, just so you'll see about writing your own obituary from the New York Times to some examples on a website called Everloved. This is the image you saw before of a simple way to write your obituary, and a little article by this woman who did write her own. She has since died. So I just wanted you to see all of that. There's many other traditions that I also admire, and you can feel free to explore any of them, but I wanted to give you that option. So what I'd like to do now is it is right now 3:33, and what I'd like to do is break out into another group for a shorter amount of time. It'll only be 2 people, and talk a little bit about where you're at with your advanced care directive, dementia directive, life review, legacy, obituary, culturally specific traditions around death, like an ethical will, your lists of heirlooms or tchotchkes or special things you'd like to give away, all in the context of what is your intention. And we'll do it, it'll be rather short, and then we'll again let you memorialize that in writing. Sound okay? Any questions? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do that. And you'll just need to hit the join button, and I'll bring us back in 5 minutes. I'm good, Mariella, thank you.
You're good? Okay. Okay, hopping over.
Ellen, are you good? I'm gonna assume you want to stay in this I'm gonna leave the recording on for folks who are watching the recording since it's a short breakout and you can use it as journal time because our writing time will be shorter. Welcome back.
We left a little early. Should we have just waited until we were brought back?
Sorry, Donna?
I said, maybe we left a little early. Should we have waited until we were
No.
brought back to the?
You know, the way Zoom defaults, once I hit the close all rooms, it gives you 60 seconds, and sometimes I have changed that to 30 seconds because it's a little confusing. But yeah, it's just a little padded time so people can finish their conversation. But gosh, your room looks, your living room is gorgeous. The light and the plants, and it's beautiful.
Beautiful virtual background. I'm glad you thought it was my actual room.
I Thank you for telling me. Welcome back to everyone. I want to give you another minute now to memorialize any of your end of life planning, end of life intentions that came out of the lecture and the breakout room right now. So just 1 to 2 minutes to just write this out so you don't lose any of your great thinking and ideas. Then we'll have a short meditation and close. Just a few more seconds. Welcome back. So I hope you have recorded any notes that you need for yourself as you're working this week on creating an end of life plan, what documents, what life review you want to complete, what legacy projects call or not to you if you're interested in obituaries or ethical will or any other culturally specific traditions. So next week, we are focusing on the time of death. And the focus will be on setting the environment for the time of death, what your wishes are for that, as well as what's happening with the body at the time of death. The focus is on home, dying at home. So I hope you will join us for that. And I just thought it'd be nice to conclude with a short meditation. This is actually Roshi Joan Halifax's, she calls this 4 profound reminders to meditate on. And I'm going to just read them for you. So it will be a little bit of like a guided meditation. It's not a visualization, it's a contemplation. So just sit comfortably and please close your eyes. It'll only be about 5 to 6 minutes. Let your body settle. Gently bring your attention to your breath. Relax. Let yourself be aware of the flow of thoughts, feelings, and sensations without getting involved with them. When you find yourself clinging to thoughts, return to the breath. These are 4 profound reminders. 1, having settled into your body, please remember how precious this human life is. During this life, you have encountered so much that has been helpful. Good teachers, good family people, good friends, the possibility of having a spiritual life, things that inspire and guide you. Many people have helped you, and you have had the joy of helping others. Although you have suffered, you have also had many moments in your life that have been good. Life is precious. 2, now contemplate the truth of impermanence. Look at your mind. Every thought and feeling you have ever had has changed in one way or another. Your body, too, is constantly changing. One day it will die. Everything in the phenomenal world will change and cease. One day, sooner or later, cease to exist. Impermanence is real. Death is inevitable. 3, now contemplate the truth of cause and effect. You yourself are a result of an endless chain of causes and effects involving your parents and ancestors, stretching back through time. Before your human ancestors, there were animal and plant ancestors. Before then, the ancestors of mammals, blue-green algae, the elements. This chain of cause and effect is endless. Your relations are endless, and your past actions are like a shadow that follows you everywhere. Your future is also being laid down at this moment. Consider that kindness and compassion give rise to good effects, and aggression and greed give rise to suffering. 4, finally, consider the truth of suffering, birth, old age, sickness, death, getting what you do not want, not getting what you do want, and losing that which you cherish. So often you have felt that this or that will make you happy, will finally bring you peace. Yet sooner or later, you will lose all these things. Contemplate what it would be like to live a life without fear. Know that deathless enlightenment is here at this moment. Relax your grip on what you think is real and open your life to whatever arises. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and come back to the circle. Does anybody have any concluding remarks? Was that like too much information? Or how are folks doing? Yeah, Lori.
I'd really like to have the reference for that last meditation. Are you going to include that?
So I'm not going to include it. It's in this book, Being with Dying.
Okay.
And it's by Joan Halifax. And
thank you.
The 9 contemplations we did the first week was from the same book.
Oh, okay.
One of the best I find out of the dozens and dozens and dozens.
Yeah. I really enjoyed that. But what I wanted to say a long time ago about the Go Wish card,
Sorry.
that's
Yeah.
okay. I just wanted to share that I have 2 packs of cards, physical cards, and I do it with my mom every time we get together. And our spiritual lives seem quite different on the outside, but the way we lay out our cards is almost the same. It's fantastic. We get a really big bang out of it.
Thank you for sharing that. And I saw Nancy, she held up, she had 2 packs too. Wait, did she just leave? I think she just left. Ellen, you have your hand up.
The meditation is on on this recording, right? So we'd have it that way.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thinking, I hadn't quite thought of that.
Thank you.
So I'm going to wish you all a lovely day. Thank you for being here. There's no specific homework for this week. I'm hoping that, you know, if you have your life review going, or you want to think about legacy, or you need to update your advanced care directive, or get your pulsed, or whatever it's called in your state going, I'm hoping you'll kind of make a plan and figure out maybe some deadlines for when you want to achieve these documents. But again, this is all about setting intentions. So it's up to you. Somebody had suggested to me that like we meet again a month after the class ends, so that people have felt like some accountability to get some stuff finished by then. And, you know, if enough people want to do that, I'm happy to do that. I just would, you know, just email me or say it in the chat or something so I know. I see Mariella and Donna Marie are interested in that. Jan, Lori likes that. Nancy likes that. The other Nancy likes that. So Krista likes that. So maybe we'll do that like as a workshop or something. And Lori, I see your hand is up, ma'am. Go ahead and unmute.
So what I thought was super profound is when you spoke of getting the possessions in order, who you wanted to give what to and all that. And basically what I took out of that is like downsizing your life. And I can really relate to that because when my mom passed, after she passed, I turned around and looked at the house and I just was like, wow. And I'm just going to express what I felt. I was like, poof, she's gone, poof, and look at all this. And to me, it really resonated with me for me and what I don't want to do in the future. Because it leaves the, how do you say it? That's left to all of us to handle. And I think the other thing is how much we do not need. This is what I started looking at because it became overwhelming. Like the jewelry she left me, I'm only one person. It became extremely overwhelming. And so I haven't dealt with it right now. But that's what I'm really clearly seeing is the simplicity that all this stuff, and don't get me wrong, I've been there, I have stuff, but the importance of getting it before you getting it rid of or given away or whatever you need to do with it before you go, I think is extremely important. Not only for me and who's left, but I'm sure for the person who's dying.
Yeah. Yes, amen. Couldn't agree more. Nancy.
I couldn't agree more as well. And Abby, who I was in a breakout group with, she said something that I wrote down, and it was, what will I regret not giving away sooner? It's that to me is almost like more jumpstart than, is this bringing me joy? It's like, no, everything brings me joy. It's like, what will I regret not giving away sooner? So I was thinking as I go through my little pieces of jewelry or whatever, it's like giving them away now with a nice letter to my nieces or whatever. So
I wanted to just say, there's, a book that I'm sure everybody's heard about, Swedish death cleaning, but it's also made into a series. And I watched several episodes, I think on Netflix. And, this team of three Swedes goes into very interesting people's homes and helps them get rid of stuff and organize their life and get rid of the clutter. So if you need a little inspiration, watching other people, it can really be helpful. I also wanted to just say that, not everything has to be in your will. Like you can just have a piece of paper that says these 5 or 10 things I want to go here, 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 and your person can execute that. And that, I think that's, if there's some things you really do care about, going on to specific people, like heirlooms or just special objects, I think that can be a really helpful in letting go. So like there's letting go of stuff, and then there's like those really special things that you really want to pass on. It's like legacy things you want to pass on. Janine, did you have your hand up? I'm sorry. No, you did. You didn't. Yes, you did. Okay. Just unmute.
I was just wondering what the show was called.
Swedish Death Cleaning. I think it's called Swedish Death Cleaning.
Swedish Death Cleaning. Thank you.
Yes. And anybody else? Cecily, did you want to? No. I love all the things people are writing in the chat. Cecily is always writes the most beautiful, heartwarming messages. Thank you for that.
Sorry, I'm telling the cats that I'm going to feed them in 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, anybody else have something they'd like to share? Did you find the breakout sessions were the right time, and writing, did that all work for folks pretty well? Okay.
The last breakout was too short.
Too short.
Yeah.
Okay. I like somebody wrote they could have talked forever with their person in that breakout.
Yeah, that was my group.
Okay. Okay. I'm gonna say goodbye and thank you. Feel free to email me. Again, Eventbrite requires that you register each week. It's not the greatest system, but it's what we got. Yeah, if you have feedback or things, feel free to email me. I'll do my very best to get back to you. And I'm hoping Ken has been, the last 2 weeks, Ken got the recording done. I could, send it out by the next day. So I was really grateful to him, to Susan Barber for all her help, Mariella for being, having my back. I appreciate it. Appreciate you all being here. Good luck with your intentions.
Right. I just wanted to remind you that you said you were going to talk to the newbies at the end of this
session. We have any newbies, do we? Janine. Oh, I will talk. Thank you. And thank you, Jan. Janine, yes, let's talk. Is there anybody else?
Abby, where'd Abby go?
Abby's not new.
Oh, okay, Abby's not new.
I am new. This is my first. I was on a death cafe. That's maybe why I bring my name. But I am new. I was away for the first 2. So yes, I'm new to this.
Okay.
I'll stay.
So Abby and Janine, yes, thank you. And Jan, thank you so much. And thanks for your help too, Jan.
I'm new as well.
Who said? Dorothy.
Yep.
Okay, Dorothy. Okay, I'm so glad. Jan, thank you. Really, a lot.
Me too, but I saw the first two on the side.
Okay, Rosie, great.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just help you, get oriented a little bit. I think you probably don't need too much more info because you went through the class, but basically, the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation is hosting this class. Wonderful foundation. We also offer a lot of other community education programs, and it's all to extend and keep alive the legacy of Elisabeth Kübler-Ross, who was just such a great humanitarian and psychiatrist and hospice pioneer. I'm an end-of-life doula and death and dying educator here in Berkeley. And the class is, 6 classes. You can attend live or watch the recordings. And the real idea behind it is to get very clear on our intentions for our end of life and to work it, be on this journey together in community where we're doing deep talking, deep listening with others in our breakout groups, doing some writing, doing some thinking and contemplating in the weeks in between. Let me ask you for questions, and I'm going to go back while you're asking questions and find my slides where I gave all the info and see what I forgot. So Dorothy and
Rhyena, should we press pause or stop the recording, or do you want other folks also to watch this at the end of the video?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna let it go just in case there's any new folks. But thank you for asking that. That's helpful. Just in case there's any new folks who are also watching the recording for the first time. So any questions that you have right now?
Nope. There's a lot of information.
Yeah, this was like the most information, Dorothy, based. That the other two were a little more contemplative, and the rest will be too. This is like the hard one. It's like Wednesday, hump day,
Can I ask, was the first meeting recorded? Can I go back to that and review that? Would that be helpful?
So I think you registered for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th class, right? Is that right?
Okay, so the second one last week is available, correct?
Yes. And it's I have to think about that. I mean, I'm sure I don't exactly know what to do. So I'll ask Susan about sending recordings out to people who didn't register. Just because we're kind of struggling financially over here. So let me ask her, because I could see how you would want that and would be helpful to you. Another thing you can do is just register twice for another class and then send me an email and I'll send you a recording for class you want that you didn't get to register. That's all we can think of. That's all we've thought of to do. Actually, Dorothy, you inspired that thought in Susan my mind because you registered for 5 classes.
Yes.
Once, and I was like, well, Susan, if somebody really needed to do that, could we do that? And she's like, I don't want to.
It was just one class at a time.
Yeah.
I just, all the other times that I've registered with the EKR Foundation, it's always been the total price.
I know, because it's one class.
But we
This
did
is
several classes, or 8 classes.
through Mexico, right?
Yes, yes.
And Mexico's system is not in our system. They're completely separate.
I didn't realize that.
That's why they have a whole different system set up. So I am going to just share my screen for just 1 second and just see if there's anything I didn't. And somebody maybe tell me if, are you seeing?
The full screen with all of the sides.
Okay.
Nice.
And now?
Okay, I
We
see.
still see all your slides, but it's okay. I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna so I just want you to know about the foundation. This is Dr. Kübler-Ross. And we have a slide, we have a quote from her every week. Only the body dies when death occurs. Consciousness lives on eternally. I talked a little bit about my background, which I can talk about more if you want, but it's not necessary. And this is my contact info, my website and my email. And then just about the class, we talked about intentions. And we're trying to get some demographics, like your name and age, health or sickness status, caregiver or solo ager, culturally specific group, if any, and where you are on the death accepting continuum, with 1 being low and 5 being high. And we're collecting that data just to know who's here a little more. And then the rest, I think I said, breakout groups, you experienced, writing you experienced.
Meditation.
Every class we have a video in except for today's, and that the class is between 1.5 and 2 hours long, depending on how, how things go with breakout groups, etc. And that everybody will get the recording, and that we appreciate everybody's support since we are such a tiny, mostly volunteer staff. So that's it. That's really the intro. Now you know. And now I might stop the recording and just let you ask any other questions that you have.